Today, we'll explore one of the oldest and yet most misunderstood human institutions, marriage, an arrangement that, throughout time, has shifted its meaning, its form, and its function, but never its significance. Let's begin with a simple, perhaps painful truth. The breakup between two people who once thought they were made for each other is one of the hardest experiences a person can endure. And yet, the very expression "made for each other" reveals the error in thinking that leads to so many of those breakups. You see, to believe that two individuals are made for one another implies perfection, a divine design that fits seamlessly. But human beings are not puzzles that snap into place. We are rivers of emotion, habits, and contradictions, flowing, changing, evolving. To complement one another, however, is something entirely different. Complementarity acknowledges difference. It is not about two identical halves becoming one. It is about two distinct minds learning to move in harmony. As Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, love is not the absence of individuality, but the meeting of two souls who strengthen each other's freedom. Love, then, may be the bloodline that connects two hearts, but communication, understanding, and compromise are the mind and logic that keep that connection alive. Without them, love alone suffocates under the weight of unmet expectations. Many young couples rush into marriage after only a few months of knowing each other. Their experiences together are filled with laughter, travel, late-night talks, and the intoxication of novelty. But they mistake shared pleasure for shared life. The honeymoon is not the marriage. It is the trailer, not the film. Marriage is not a moment. It is a journey, a long, unpredictable expedition that can take countless directions depending on how both partners navigate it. And this navigation requires emotional intelligence, patience, and above all, an awareness of the self. Let's look at this from a psychological perspective. Sigmund Freud believed that love begins in the realm of illusion, an idealization of the beloved, a projection of our own inner needs. He wrote that we love not what we see, but what we imagine in the other. And as that illusion fades, we are left facing the real, flawed human being before us. And that is when true love either begins or ends. From a sociological point of view, marriage serves as both a personal choice and a social contract. Society reinforces marriage as a stabilizing structure, a way to ensure continuity, reproduction, and social order. But within modern societies, we are witnessing a paradox. The individual now seeks both total freedom and total intimacy, two desires that often stand in tension with each other. Marriage, in this context, becomes a mirror reflecting our struggle between independence and belonging. We want to be autonomous, yet we crave union. We want to be loved for who we are, yet we fear being truly seen. Philosophically speaking, the medieval thinker Averroes, Ibn Rushd, described love and union as acts of intellect as much as emotion. He believed that true understanding between two souls must begin with understanding oneself, for the self that is unknown cannot share itself truthfully. This echoes through the centuries. Know thyself before you promise yourself. Now, let us turn briefly to modern psychology. Therapists often describe marriage as a living system. In a system, both individuals affect each other constantly. Thoughts, moods, actions, words all feed into a continuous cycle of influence. When one partner grows, the system changes. When one suffers in silence, the system weakens. Thus, communication is not simply exchanging words, it is maintaining the pulse of the relationship. And this brings us to a deeper question. Is marriage still necessary? Has it outlived its social purpose? Some sociologists argue that marriage, once rooted in survival and property, is slowly evolving into something purely emotional, a quest for companionship and meaning rather than obligation. But others point out that as individualism rises, relationships grow more fragile, because the self now stands above the union. In other words, we have traded sacrifice for self-expression. Yet love cannot exist without a measure of surrender, a willingness to bend without breaking. To love is not to lose yourself, but to expand yourself to include another. And that expansion requires maturity, psychological, emotional, and spiritual. Freud would say that the unconscious mind always seeks to repeat, to recreate old patterns of love, trauma, or dependency from childhood. Thus, marriage often becomes a theater for unresolved emotions. The past enters the home disguised of habit, and unless both partners learn to see and talk through those invisible scripts, they will keep living the same story under new names. Now, from a spiritual and existential lens, marriage can also be viewed as a mirror for growth. It is not meant to make you happy, it is meant to make you aware. To face yourself in another human being and learn humility, empathy, and forgiveness. Love, in this sense, is not an escape from the self, it is a return to it. As we examine marriage across cultures and philosophies, we find one constant truth. Every union is both a challenge and a creation. It demands effort, structure, and imagination. It is, in its best form, an art, the art of coexistence. To conclude, let us return to Emerson's timeless words. "The only gift is a portion of thyself." In marriage, that is all we can truly offer, a portion of our being, shaped and reshaped by time, honesty, and love. Not perfection, but participation. Not destiny, but dedication. And perhaps that is what makes the human connection so extraordinary, its imperfection, its fragility, and the courage it takes to keep choosing another person day after day, in a world that teaches us to choose only ourselves.